Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Dirks, and on behalf of ACRL and Choice, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Using Core Titles in New Contexts. 3 librarians share best practices for employing resources for college libraries, which is sponsored by both Choice and ProQuest. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from ACRL and Choice that addresses new ideas, developments, and products of interest to the academic library community. Free to users, these structured 60-minute live presentations provide the opportunity for interactive discussions of important new issues and developments in academic librarianship by librarians, vendors, authors, and other interested stakeholders. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of the webinar software. In the main area of the screen, you should be able to follow along with the presentation materials. Along the right-hand side, you should see a Q&A panel and a chat panel, and probably a polling panel as well. If you don't, you can click the little icons up at the top of the screen to enable chat and Q&A. Should be in the upper right corner. Please use the Q&A panel to submit questions to our speakers. And if you have any technical issues, you can let me know using the chat panel. That will go directly to me. So if you do have questions for the speakers, please feel free to send them in throughout the session, and we will take some time at the end to answer them. I would also mention that we're using the hashtag ACRL Choice Webinars, so if you want to tweet about the event, please use that hashtag. You can shout out to us. We are at choice_reviews on Twitter. Also note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archived version. Our speakers today are Jennifer Arnold and Hallie Burton and Suzanne Weisner. Jennifer Arnold is the Director of Library Services at Central Piedmont Community College, a large multi-campus comprehensive community college in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she is responsible for budgeting, human resources, and all accreditation-related reporting and statistics. She holds an MLIS from the University of South Florida and is currently working on a master's in public administration at UNC Chapel Hill. And Hallie Burton has worked for more than 15 years as a research librarian, supporting students, educators, and practitioners across the continuum of human care for multiple areas of allied health to nursing to social work. She holds graduate degrees in library science and public health from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and is presently employed as a research and instruction librarian and liaison to the Health and Human Sciences at Western Carolina University in Callaway, North Carolina. Her research interests derive from her professional passion, the study of ways in which human care professionals find, evaluate, and use health and social care information to improve the care they provide for their patients, clients, and themselves. Suzanne Weisner is digital humanist in residence in special collections for the performing arts at the UMD libraries and is an archivist for the Irmgard Bartneef and LIMS collections housed there. That was a mouthful. Her research focuses on intersections of language and movement, the verbal and nonverbal, using motion capture and other technologies while supporting the creative impulses of her colleagues, digital humanists all. And with that, I think we are ready to get started. So I will turn the floor over to you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. At my institution, one of my major responsibilities is to provide collection reports for accreditation purposes. Both for the college's overarching accreditation, we're accredited under the Southern Association for College and Schools Commission on Colleges, which we affectionately refer to as SACS. And the agencies are bodies that accredit individual programs. So a whole host of our programs are individually accredited. For example, our paralegal program is accredited by the American Bar Association. Today I'm going to talk about 3 examples of different types of accreditation: our accreditation under SACS, our accreditation under ASEN, which is the Accreditation Commission for Education in Nursing, and the National Association for the Education of Young Children. to sort of illustrate how resources for college libraries assist in answering the types of collection issues that are posed in accreditation reporting. So let's start by looking at one of the most common examples of when a regional accreditor like Stocks asks specifically for information on library collections. Of course, Stocks accredits institutions for 10-year periods, but colleges have to make both 5-year reports during the middle of that time period, as well as additional reporting if the institution wants to offer a degree or program of courses that represents what Stocks terms a significant departure from those that were offered during the last evaluation period. So in other words, if the college wants to offer a new program, they have to seek Stocks approval before they can begin enrolling students in that program. One of several questions that Stocks asks in order to guide colleges in determining whether a new program constitutes a significant departure is if significant library resources will be needed to support the program. Being at a community college at a tier institution, new programs are developed with greater frequency than you might see at 4-year institutions because of our need to remain nimble to the workforce needs in our community. And this is really where, for me, RCL has stepped in to help out. The most recent instance here at Central Piedmont Community College where I had to answer this question was related to a new program in logistics and supply chain management. This program was developed in response to the airport here in Charlotte's sort of intensive development of its intermodal hub. If you don't know, intermodal hubs bring together air, rail, and truck freight in one central location to move goods. And since I am by no means an expert in supply chain management, I could go directly to RCL and do a subject search for that particular topic to see what core titles are available in the subject areas. So right now you should be looking at a screenshot of my subject search in supply chain management. I wanted to point out a couple of important limiters that are available. They allow me to do a little bit more to make this list particularly useful for my needs. So as you can see on the right-hand side of the screenshot, I can limit my publication date to the last 5 years. Most community college accrediting bodies look for material that's less than 5 years old. We don't retain older information for historical purposes. That's not our role as libraries in these types of institutions. I can limit my audience to lower division undergraduate so that I can feel confident that the material is appropriate for students at a 2-year institution. And I can change the status to in print because, again, what I'm really interested in is materials that are currently available. So in just a few minutes, I have a good list of core titles that I know that we'll need to support a new program in that particular subject area. This next slide is just to show you that it's incredibly easy to download. Once I've created my list, I've done my searching, I've used my limiters. It's really easy for me to create a spreadsheet, download it straight from RCL, and it's one that I can use to just slide into the report that I'm going to send back to my VP's office to go back to that accrediting body, and also one that I can easily turn around and order those materials for so that those materials are held in the library when Stocks makes its determination about allowing us to offer that program. And next I wanted us to take a look at a particular program accreditation. And when it comes to individual program accreditation, nursing is one of our most important programs and one of the most stringent processes that we go through for a single program. They will do a site visit, they will be in the library, they will be pulling books off the shelf and seeing if they're less than 5 years old, they'll be looking for specific titles. So the ASIN standards require that we have sufficient library materials to meet the needs of faculty and students. You can also see from their guidelines on the screen an emphasis on scholarship in the field and on evidence-based teaching and practice. And that reliance on evidence-based teaching and practice is a factor we're seeing in more and more of these individual program accrediting bodies. So with that focus on evidence-based practice, as the library, we have to respond by providing faculty and students with resources that support those activities, both in and outside the classroom and when they're in their clinical settings. So with nursing, I'd like to highlight the career resources feature of RCL because that makes it easy for me to identify the types of resources that best serve students in an associate degree nursing program, which those accreditation guidelines do separate from BSN and beyond programs. So in RCL, I can navigate directly to the Career Resources tab. I can select Allied Health, which you can see here on the screen, and then I can drill down directly to find nursing resources suited to a 2-year program. So like with the supply chains logistics example, it's easy then to find the core titles that I need to have on my shelves when those ACN accreditors walk into my library. My third example today is going to be the NAEYC, the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And their process sort of reveals a third way of searching RCL that is really helpful in prepping for these accreditation visits. Here is with the nursing accreditation, you can see that NAEYC's professional preparation standards focus on research and evidence-based practices and contain the expectation that early childhood educators will be well-versed in the usage of library resources to support their teaching. So for a subject like early childhood education, RCL's LC classification search is particularly useful to me. As you can see here, I can look under the broad subject classification for education and select all of the aspects that are relevant to a program in early childhood education, including preschool education and the training of teachers, since that's a topic that's of particular interest to our faculty, as they are training new teachers. The LC class search allows me to make sure that I'm not missing titles in an area that is relevant to our early childhood education program that, again, I might not know off the top of my head because I'm not an expert in that particular subject. So I hope you can see through these three sort of very different types of accreditation processes that RCL can be a really useful tool in providing the various kinds of collection reports that accreditors require, and in helping you obtain the resources that these accreditors are going to expect to see when they come to your college and your library for a site visit. Like I hope I've shown you, it's easy to use and offers different ways of searching RCL that can work to make finding information on a subject that's tailored to your type of institution pretty simple and easy. And I did want to end by saying it's equally as important that RCL provides an authoritative and credible source for core titles and subject areas that are new. It is an authority that we appeal to when we provide information to accreditors to assure them that we have found the most relevant, the most necessary titles in that particular subject area, so that in the end we can report with confidence that our collections support the curriculum here at CPCC. And with that, I am going to turn the ball over to Susan. There you go.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Suzanne Weisner here. I'm at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. And one of the things to introduce myself, I do have a doctorate in dance studies and engineering, which seems a little weird, but that helps make me a digital humanities scholar. And I am the archivist for the Irmgard Barteniev and Laban Barteniev Institute for Movement Studies, archives and collections here at the University of Maryland. So I pretty much handle most of the dance archives. But I'm also the RCL Subject Editor for dance. And what I want to talk about is, for those of you who have been given a new subject area, which happens a lot of times because people may be music or theater librarians and get handed dance as a sideline. Or you may be a new librarian and be coming into a performing arts library, or this might be just a really good refresher for you. So you've been given this new subject area. You can either run screaming, or you can calm down, take a breath, and figure out you've really got this. One of the things you can depend on RCL for is, just like somebody you trusted and supported you when you learned to walk or climb the stairs, RCL Subject Editors are here to help. So one of the things we do is try very hard to provide support for librarians, patrons, and students when they're searching for information. One of the things you need to know is that most 25% of the subject editors for RCL actually do have doctorate degrees in the discipline. So we're pretty well versed. Then 40% of them are founding editors, We also have a very stringent review process. So a quick overview of that process might be helpful. One, when I first became a subject editor, the first thing I had to do was go and look at the existing taxonomy and see if I agreed with what was in there. After pretty extensive research on it, I made some decisions to change the taxonomy in RCL. And this was all based on some probably boring statistical analysis and background on what the discipline itself, in my case dance, really was looking like at that time. Then we also have new editions that are sent out to us. If there's a new edition of a particular text, we receive that. Then we make the decision if we want to actually include the new edition into the RCL listing, or would this new edition actually supersede the old one. And one of the things that I've had to deal with is perhaps there's a new edition, but the preface is written by someone else. And both prefaces are really good for everyone to be able to take a look at. So I do not always go and get rid of the old edition. Another thing that happens is an external review process. So while I may be reviewing my taxonomy and deciding if it's most appropriate for different audiences and different libraries, there is a review process where RCL reaches out to external reviewers who are generally peers. They know the discipline very well. They could be scholars, they could be in the libraries. Generally, they are librarians. And they go through a process where they not only observe the taxonomy, but they go in and see exactly what is in every single subject area. For dance, there are quite a few listings. And so what I may get back is a report saying you missed something, there's an error, you need to update your entries, and they also make recommendations, possibly moving something from one category in the taxonomy to another one. And then we work with RCL, the subject editors, and RCL and Doherty specifically, and together to decide if we really do need to change the taxonomy, and then I decide, do I need to add, do I need to delete? So there's a lot of work that goes on in the background as far as the selection and life cycle of these RCL lists. The next thing to remember is that disciplines are not all alike across institutions or even within institutions. So if you have a new subject area, you should be familiarizing yourself with what's going on in your institution. For dance, because that's what I know, it could be that it's more of a conservatory than it is a higher ed theoretical place. It may be that they're very focused on pedagogy or research. Maybe that practice is important, or the humanities writ large. So my subject of dance is often lumped in with other, I don't mean that derogatorily, but lumped in with other topics such as music or theater. So I know that there are students who might be coming to get information on any one of these. Remembering also that perhaps a STEM discipline may be very technology heavy. It may be about building, it may be about coding, it may be about lab work, or it could be that it's very reflective and theory-based. It may be that the discipline or your institution is connected to a hospital or to industry. So you want to take all of that into account when you're looking at this new subject area that you have. Then you also want to really pay attention to the people you are supporting. The faculty that you're supporting may have interests that actually do align with the major, or it may be that they have additional interests, which they will be bringing up in the classroom. Do you have undergraduates or graduates? Or is it K through 12 and a general audience? An example would be that here at the University of Maryland, in dance, there is an MFA. However, if they want to go on to the PhD, they will go into performance studies, which is not exactly saying dance. So I need to be very aware of that. Okay, then, so now you've done all this work and decided, okay, here's what my discipline looks like, here are the people here at my institution, and now I know the background, and I can trust in the expertise of the RCL subject editors. So you want to go over and get into RCL. And here I've pulled up the LC class listing. And one of the things I note here is that we have to go through geography. Most people don't know this, geography, anthropology, and recreation in order to find dance in the LC listings. And then if you go to recreation and leisure, you get down and you can finally find dancing. The best place is to go to the RCL subjects. And here it's really interesting. These are very specific. We work hard to make sure you have the best. One of the things that I find interesting is environmental sciences and environmental studies. Can you all see my screen? I hope so. You'll notice that climate change is in both environmental studies and environmental sciences. However, there is a great deal of difference in the subtopics here. And the taxonomy, you find the environmental biology, chemistry, disasters, engineering, geology. But then down in environmental studies, you find history and philosophy and religion. So it's really interesting that we are taking care with these taxonomies and these subject areas. And don't be surprised if your new subject is something like dance or drama and theater. Within that, you have drama and theater, which has only the 4 head topics, but then you get a few more down below. And in dance, I've actually added quite a few, but like I said, this came from an analysis of what was going on in the discipline and really looking at dance publications. So once you've looked at the taxonomy and looked at how it's viewed here, and you could say there's health and wellness, but is that the same thing as somatics? And actually they're not. Then you have technology and media, writing and criticism, and some of these drop down. Anthropology and geographic traditions, there are several around the world. So they are broken up because dance ethnography is a very up-and-coming, it's been around for a while, but an up-and-coming field that people are really starting to pay attention to because it's an interdisciplinary subject. Then you want to come up here and go just do a browse. And here's where you can get some really interesting information. So I want to go straight to dance and Cunningham, and I should find Merce Cunningham. And he is there. But the nice thing is that if you go over to the refine results, you can look at what audience, like I mentioned earlier, and find out that I've actually designated there are upper levels, which would be mostly grad students. You can look at general audiences, and you can find out what's appropriate all the way across. Once you get into one, you can actually click on it, and you find out, oh, it's also in other subject headings, dance, genre, styles and forms, and modern dance, because this is Merce Cunningham. And you can find the audience. I've designated this as a general adult, so you won't find it under others. Next thing you want to do, if I can remember how to get out of this, stop sharing, and here, yay. Try and figure out what's in your library. This is old-fashioned, but do a shelf walk in your new discipline and see what you actually have. I once had to do a comparison of 2 different libraries, which was not an easy task because one was very specifically a conservatory and one really focused on pedagogy. So in order to understand it, I just walked the shelves. And then go back to basics. Go back to RCL. You know what you have in your library, you know what you have in your subject, you know what we have in our taxonomy. So browse again, do another search, and do some comparisons. And then you should be ready to tackle your new subject. And I have to say, as an instructor for a new course on digital humanities and the performing arts, I used RCL to find out what I should be giving to my students for reading. Because while very clear on what has to happen in dance, I'm not so clear on what has to happen in the other performing arts. That's it. Thanks. And I'm going to hand this over to Ann Halliburton.
Hello there, y'all. Oh, There's a picture of me. Hello, I'm Ann. Very pleased to meet with y'all today, and thank you so much for coming. I just want to echo, you'll probably hear me echo a few things that my esteemed collaborators mentioned earlier, but please note that everything is building on everything else. All right. Now, I'm talking to you today about how to use RCL in your in-class presentations, also how to use it just when building course guides, all kinds of things. And I love using RCL to find, well, the top-rated resources in whatever area I'm looking in. Now, it's nice that you can go within specific areas, and it's also great that you can just go within broad disciplines. Now, I take care of the allied health career resources, which Jennifer talked about earlier, and there are many different areas within the allied health section. Now, as I'm working with my own folks at Western Carolina University, I take care of all of the health and human sciences, and for us that includes also all kinds of things from nursing to physical therapy to so many areas, recreational therapy and social work. I'll mention social work more in just a bit, but I find that I use RCL to look across disciplines because the areas that I take care of, the whole holistic health human care idea is touched by so many different areas. Now, in the example that I've got on the screen here, and I'll be taking you into a live search in just a moment, but on this example, I have pulled up one of my very favorite combinations of words, open access. Now, that makes some people go, ew, and sometimes I feel that way too, but I'm a huge fan of subject area expert reviewed, vetted open access materials, particularly in times of budget cuts. I'll talk about that more in a moment, but just remember, you can use RCL for teaching, for finding those things to use in the classroom, and for finding those things to help students when they are outside of the classroom and maybe in the clinic or just in their regular day-to-day lives. So, when I'm using RCL to prepare for a class, it depends a lot on what the class is and how comfortable I feel. And I'm not sure if anyone ever feels 1,000% comfortable. Actually, that's when I find myself making my most mistakes, is when I'm going into a class that maybe I've done, after all these years, probably at least 30 times before. And I go in and sometimes I'm thinking, okay, what did I do last time? And I cover the same tools, the same tricks, the same, ooh, try this and that. And later on I realize, oh, I should have updated that 2 years ago. So it makes me feel more than a little sheepish. And I find RCL helps me a whole lot in finding not only new tools, but those that are new to me. Now, you can have a lot of experience in a discipline, but if you aren't finding new things all the time, in my belief system, you're not doing it right, because everything is constantly changing. And some of the fun is also seeing how things change back. For instance, I take care of the nutrition and dietetics folks, both within the Allied Health Career Resources and in my own work here at the university I serve. And it's been amazing over this decade and a half just to see how nutrition information can go and do a complete circle. So what is that, a 360? I keep wanting to say a 180. It does a 180, then a 360, then all over again. And that's just a beautiful thing, because RCL can help you find new things, and it can also help you feel okay about letting go of things that you have been using. I remember when I took over my subject areas, I had just been doing a lot of, oh, the term is kind of maybe not the most fun, weeding. I like to call it deselection. And I took out a lot of things because even though I'd been using so many of those things, it felt needful to get it to a slimmed down thing. And that was more just a reflection on what was going on in my own institution at the time, and also in the budgetary things of schools across the nation. And letting go of some things was good. Now, when I look in other folks' subject areas to get ideas for what I need to add for my own, let's say into my own professional work here as a librarian at a university, I realize that the things that I thought I needed, maybe I don't need. Or the things that I didn't think I needed, if other folks are recommending them and I look at their reasoning behind, I often add them. Oops. All right. And in using RCL resources for your guides and classes, there are so many things. You can learn about what's out there, what's new to you, because there's so much that's good, bad, in between, and it's coming out all the time. I know that in health and human care, there are things continually coming out, and it's changing so fast that I'm not sure how practitioners can keep up with it. And practitioners tell me, well, we can't. So that's another reason why RCL is so important. And also, it just helps us be more useful as librarians, being part of that educational team. So it's impossible for us librarians to keep up with everything that could benefit our students. And that's why going to RCL and finding what subject area expert librarians from across the nation have recommended can help a whole lot. Now, I'll be giving you an example of something that I had happen to me. As I mentioned, I take care of the Career Resources Allied Health collection. But in my own area of collection and my own, well, liaison instruction area, research area here at the university I serve, I take care of the health and human sciences, and I use a lot of RCL's health sciences and medicine section. That's not in the career resources, that's in RCL health sciences and medicine. And I have used that quite a lot to find materials for the graduate and upper level undergraduate programs I serve. And one example of the many things that I find, I like to think of them as unknown gems, things that I hadn't even thought about before. I had a group of instructors come to me last year. Our students are out, especially our nursing students, out doing their clinicals, and they were still relying on their print lab text manuals to find lab values for different blood tests, different body fluid tests. And they were looking for something that the students wouldn't have to pay a whole lot of money for, if any, that they could get back quick lab values quite nicely. So I fired up RCL, and I found the wonders of lab tests online from the American Academy of Clinical Chemistry. I found that it had been recommended also by the National Library of Medicine, and I was, of course, sheepish that I had not been promoting this product forever before, because the web version was free, and at that time the phone app for it, the smartphone app for it, was 99 cents. So why hadn't I been pushing it? And anyway, now I have rectified my practice, and I show it quite a lot. In addition, no longer do folks even have to pay 99 cents, because now the American Academy of Clinical Chemistry has made the site smartphone happy, so it is just wonderful. That was just one of the multiple gems I have found in dealing in resources for college libraries, just in what I use in my own class instruction and in creating my help guides. And now I'm going to take you on to a live search in here, so bear with me. And here's a view of resources for college libraries. And you can search on anything. Let's say when I was starting out with social work, I wasn't even sure what area social work might be in, but I wanted to make sure that I had the best resources, as Susan was mentioning, for learning all about the new subject area I was taking care of. And I looked all around, and I found, and Susan also mentioned, the taxonomy that goes on, that things are applied within. So I went into social work. I found quite a few resources that I could use in classes. Then I found, oh, it's in human services, social and human services, career resources. So I was then able to search within the subjects there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this change happened probably about, forgive me, my mind is not remembering too well, but I'm thinking probably about a year ago, where the labeling assigned to websites had to be updated and online tools, and for that I am very thankful. At the time I was like, oh, I don't want to add things in, but now I'm quite thankful because I used one of my favorite things is now to search open access, and I can search within subjects on here. And now if you did a wide open access search, you would find lots of books talking about open access, but I wanted to find out what may be new and available in health sciences and medicine, just in the area that I take care of. Alrighty. And within here, I am seeing multiple things that I use frequently on my own help guides in classes. And if I keep going down, oh, and some of my most favorite things in the world are in here, but lab tests online, and that was very, very exciting. So it was a wonderful thing when I learned about that through Resources for College Libraries. I'll be popping back over to Resources for College Libraries in just a moment, but I want to show you how you can use those resources within your own help guides. I'm not sure how many folks out there use LibGuides at your institution. I know it's a fairly popular platform, and we've been using it for several years. Do not worry if you don't use LibGuides. Whatever you use, you can get information about the wonders of different RCL resources dependent on your subject areas into whatever help resources you're using. For me, a significant portion of the students and educators I serve are not physically based here in Cullowhee. So many are either in clinical practice around the state, some even around the world. In addition, they may even be in a short driving distance, but may not be able to come into the library. And as a lot of folks may be aware of, some medical libraries have now become almost all virtual. Now, us librarians end up being a bit virtual at times too. And that's been an interesting changeover, but one that does not matter the format of the information. The practitioner in whatever area still needs the very best information that we can provide. So here on just this LibGuides version of the help guide that I use, I have one for all my subject areas combined because I have this holistic human care ideology, sort of a public health kind of thing. But just on my clinical resources area, all of the resources called out are highlighted in Resources for College Libraries. Just pointing out. So you'll see, and not all of these are in the subject areas that I take care of in my editorial work within career resources, but they are all shown within RCL. In addition, you can find resources in RCL. Another example, oh, forgive me, I make way too many silly videos, but I just want to point out one of my favorite resources of all time because it works so well across healthcare, criminal justice, history, all sorts of things. USA.gov, I love things that people can use long after they graduate. I love it way too much. This tool searches across state, federal, municipal, tribal resources all at one time. And a while back I did make a love song to it and dressed up as the Statue of Liberty. Just pointing out. Also, you'll find other resources mentioned in RCL. As you can tell, I use RCL resources a bit heavily. I'm not the only one who loves the RCL resources, though. Let me give you some examples of other RCL resources used. Now, forgive me, I'm in the LibGuides community here as well. I'll show you it, I'll point out how you can also find examples from non-LibGuides course help guides as well for using RCL, but that'll be at the end. This is an example from the LibGuides community. I point this out because in the LibGuides community, you can actually borrow from other folks' LibGuides, and not reinventing the wheel is a good thing. I like to, what's it called? Oh heck, don't reinvent the wheel. Just work it up to a monster truck tire and go plowing over whatever the problem is. Well, maybe not plow over, but yes. So here's just an example on the LibGuides community, which is freely available. You can go in, and I find it's better if you do the quotation mark search, just because if you do the straight resources for college libraries, other things come up in addition. And this just pulls up a few, just a very few examples. Oh, I'm number 2, whoops, of resources for college libraries being called out on other folks' help guides throughout. So you can go into their help guides and find all kinds of resources you can then borrow. For instance, you find out all about, I think, something that might be mentioned in the next person talking, but the Boker Stacks app, so that folks can put more stuff on their smartphones, and that is a lovely, lovely thing. This particular one is from, oh heck, New York Institute of Technology, I do believe, and they're giving all sorts of great information on how to download that help guide. It is a good thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take you to, and by the way, I have links in this presentation if you want to take a look at any of those resources later. And finally, now, this will have been on the bottom of that RCL page when you go into RCL. But I love making silly little videos to help with my students and other folks finding information or searching a different way or getting help finding places to publish, stuff like that. And there's nothing I appreciate more than well-done web tutorials that others provide as well. And if you go to the bottom of your RCL screen, they have a wonderful Find Help area. And not only can you get into those help things from RCL, but there's also a wonderful RCL training video playlist on YouTube that you can get into, see things, and help tools help way much, even if you've been using something for years and years and years. I learn something new all of the time by watching other folks' help videos. Tricks on searching things, the things I learn about EBSCOhost interfaces daily, it's kind of shocking and how quickly they change. I bring that up just because EBSCOhost is the only provider for CINAHL, and for nursing folks, y'all know that one quite well. And down here, you'll also find that Bookwire app mentioned. And with that, I'd like to hand on to the next presenter. Thank you for talking to me today. Oh, and if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate. You can contact me if you'd like. Thanks.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Poza, and I'm a product marketing manager here at ProQuest. And part of my responsibility lies with marketing not only resources for college libraries, but a product that we call Syndetics Unbound, which I'm going to tell you about here for just a minute. So in addition to what's new for Q1 of 2018, the 257 titles, as you can see, that we've added to resources for college libraries, we are also really excited about something that's going to come probably towards the end of this quarter and the beginning of, or in the beginning of Q2 of this year, and that is integrating RCL content with Syndetics Unbound. And that's a product that, in a nutshell, it's an online catalog enrichment service that drives discovery, exploration, and circulation of your library's holdings using what we call enrichment elements. And we have more than a dozen of those, or Syndetics Unbound includes more than a dozen of those. And what those elements do is deliver really patron-friendly features that they would expect from everyday web browsing, things like book covers, summaries, professional and reader reviews, the ability to look inside or get a sneak peek at a book, read-alikes, and a handful more of those elements as well. And Syndetics Unbound is compatible with more than 30 ILS, OPAC, and discovery systems, including even our own here at ProQuest, Summon and Primo, and is really what we call kind of an out-of-the-box ready. There's very little administrative work that it takes to integrate these elements, these Syndetics Unbound elements, into your existing discovery layer or your OPAC. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek at it. With a customer that we are finishing up some beta testing with. Everybody should see on their screen a search result for David Quammen. And if you look right at the middle of your screen, you'll see we have the title, and then we have some of those Syndetics Unbound enrichment elements that I just told you about. That you may also like the summary, about the author, tags, reading level, professional reviews, and the look inside. And really what we're trying to do here is help drive patrons to that high-quality RCL content that you guys make available, and ultimately help them make more informed decisions about the material that they're evaluating as part of their research. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on a couple, and you should see a professional review pop up. This one's from Choice. You can see we have a summary about the title as well. And then we have recommendations, or you may also like, which are really helpful when it comes to thinking about some of the serendipity, right, that can occur as researchers are poking around and trying to figure out what content is going to help them get that research paper done, for example. And within this, you may also like, if the student mouses over a title, you'll see that the summary pops up. It's probably a little bit small on your screen, but you can see that we have those pop up for each of these titles here as well. And we have top picks, more by the tag biology in this particular case, titles within the same genre, titles by the same author, etc. So we're really excited to get this launched. For those of you that are on the line that are already Syndetics Unbound and RCL customers, we're going to be in touch with you very soon because we're going to just go ahead and turn this on for you. Again, that should be probably March, early to mid-March of Q2 of this year. And with that, we can go to questions that we received in the chat while our presenters were speaking. And the first one that we have came in for Jennifer. How frequently are you analyzing your collection to support accreditation, or are you doing it mostly based on new programs and the schedule of accreditors?
It's a bit of a mix of both. In terms of the big Stocks accreditations for new programs, that's fairly unpredictable. In fact, we often get phone calls from our VP's office like, hey, I need this for this report in fairly short order. Our program accreditations are on they're regularly scheduled. Those programs are up for accreditation. But as we do collection development in those areas, we're using those core title lists to make sure that we're kind of keeping up with that. But when it's actual time for the accreditation report, we'll do some more intensive work to make sure that that subject area is up to date. So it's a bit of a mix of both approaches.
Okay, so these two are probably interrelated here, I think, for Susan. do you have faculty using RCL as well? And then more specifically, do you have recommendations for how to reach out to faculty and students as a new liaison librarian?
If the institution actually subscribes to RCL, the librarian can actually show it to them, and then they can get to the RCL themselves, which is great. You don't have to go to your librarian to get the information. And in any reference session, you should mention RCL and the fact that we have all of the information there for them. And I need to mention, we also have videos. It's very necessary in my particular discipline. So Anne was mentioning that the websites, but we have videos and text too. And in order to get out to, as a new liaison, when you're doing your search on your individual faculty members, try to find the one thing that you really connect with and that you can feel you can help them with, and then shoot them an email or give them a phone call and say, I was really interested in whatever, what can you tell me about it? And I'd like to come do an information session with you. And then so you go in for your informational interview. And I can tell you in my particular area of the performing arts, the faculty love to be able to talk about their work and what they do. And reminding them that one of the things they will bring up is, well, but we work with video, or our students don't use the library. And remind them that there is a lot there for their students, and that in the future they may want to be using the library, and that they can come and get videos. Is that enough?
Okay. Yes, thank you. We have one more question. Do any of you use the collection analysis add-on to evaluate what you already have, especially for accreditation reports?
This is Jennifer. We definitely have used the analysis tool. It was an easy automated way to actually look at our overall collection and kind of understand what the overall quality was and what areas that we needed to improve, particularly as we aim towards those big 10-year Stocks accreditations. Those are pretty intensive reporting times and a pretty intensive process to go through, even though the library requirements have changed. But when the college went through its accreditation in 2003, so 2 accreditations ago, they were concerned about the library collection, so that is something that we have always sort of paid attention to. Yeah, and that analysis tool can be really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Those are all of the questions that we have received in chat. Mark, do you want to take us home?
Sure, absolutely. And if folks do have additional questions, we do have a few minutes here, but we'll give it just a second to see if any others crop up.
Oh, well, while we're doing that, I will say that we'll of course follow up with all of our attendees after the webinar and via email, and within that we'll ask you just a little bit about what you thought about our session and the topics and whatnot. So please be sure to be on the lookout for that. Give us a day or two to get back with you, and if you could just take a moment when that does arrive to let us know what you think, we'd greatly appreciate it. This was a little bit different approach for us, I think, than we've done for RCL in the past, so we're really curious to get your thoughts on it.
Great, yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll just take this opportunity here, and I'll say thank you to all of our presenters today. Thank you, Jennifer and Anne and Susan and Chris. Thanks for spending time with us and showing us how you use RCL. It's been really interesting. Would just also remind folks that we did record today's session, so you should be able to find that on our on the Choice 360 website as well as on our YouTube channel. And before we head out today, I'd like to encourage you to take a moment to fill out our quick survey to let us know how we did in the presentation today. You should be able to see that coming through your chat there. Please do take a moment to answer the 3 or 4 questions that are there. And Other than that, I will just say thank you to all of you out there for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope the rest of your day is great.